let me be honest with you guys, like really honest with you guys. With this being one of the only episodes that I remember the most from this show, it's mainly for the terrifying reasons when it comes to the final minutes of this episode. Mainly forced fusion, and as far as I'm concerned, I have never been more terrified when it comes to forced fusion as much as Garnet, considering that the relationship centering around Ruby and Sapphire is really an indicator that Garnet is really incapable of handling force fusion. While doing the laundry, Steven wants Garnet to unfuse in order to meet Ruby and Sapphire again, but unfortunately she refuses, and after failing to catching Peridot, they go back to the control room that Peridot used to went to in order to find more details. Unfortunately, this leads to the corrupted gems that are way more terrifying than the other corrupted gems that we've met or seen in episodes before this. Cluster gems, mainly hands and feet, and to tell you the truth, they're way more terrifying for how they're designed. And as far as I'm concerned, with it being Garnet's fear of forced fusion and how he's discussed about it, really shows onto why she's Garnet in the first place, rather than Ruby and Sapphire separately. If I'm gonna be really real with you, if they were planning on making fusion an important factor when it comes to being in a relationship rather than force fusion, then I can really tell that they're really handling on Garnet's character along with the relationship of Ruby and Sapphire, despite the fact that despite having a conversation with each other after stopping the cluster gems, being in the fusion rather than force fusion is more protection when it comes to the two being together. Let me just say this right now for how terrified I was just like Garnet when it comes to the cluster gems. It really showcased on the fact that Garnet's character on being in the fusion and being stayed as a fusion has more purpose than when it comes to the fusion of Jasper and Lapis, since that it's mainly a toxic relationship that Lapis is just trying to protect Steven and the Crystal Gems from Jasper taking full control while completely emotionally manipulating Lapis. Even though that those fusions are completely different from each other, I really felt like that this fusion is a huge indicator that Garnet really needs to be keeping it together while trying to prevent any forced fusions. The terrifying music with the cluster gems separating Garnet, mainly unfusing her, is mainly what Connie's mother said it best. Straight out of a nightmare. Whenever I come across Steven Universe thumbnails on YouTube, I've always come across this that is worth 1,000 words. Or mainly a huge expression, knowing full well that it's really terrifying to see Garnet go through force fusion. For some time, when it came to Garnet's development during my first binge watch, it really shows that despite being braver in comparison to Pearl and Amethyst, there's always disadvantages when it comes to feel. And believe me, I know that not every single person is feel-free, and Garnet is the perfect example when she is not feel-free. I gotta say that the force fusion explanation in this episode really shows that Garnet is the type of character that really stands out a lot more when it comes to the fanbase. Believe me, watching this episode for the first time really gave me fear when it comes to the cluster gems, but rewatching it really makes this episode aged a lot more better after 9 years. This episode is one of my most favorites when it comes to Season 2. The only good thing is that we don't have to go back to Nightmare Hospital since I've already talked about it, because even though that what I've witnessed from this episode is a lot more terrifying, we do not want to come back to the cluster gems. If anything, they're my most feared creature in any other cartoon. I'm giving this episode a 9 out of 10.
You